The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians.
Say what we say when we say it again, then you can go home to your toys. All right, I'll say it again. Now can I go home to my toys?
Let me get this straight. You don't believe in God because of Alice in Wonderland?
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my fingers upon you.
Kick up the bass, come kick up the bass, come.
Irreverent. The N.FM, I am DJ Zouain. This is Irreverent. Welcome to Irreverent. Thank you for listening. The show's brought to you by the N.FM. You can find all of my programs on the N.FM. You can also follow me on all social media at DJ ZOUAIN. You can catch me on Saturdays at West End Trading Company in downtown Sanford, doing Sanfording Saturdays. Shout out to Paul and Dustin and everybody else out there. I'll see you guys Saturday, and you should be there too. I start at 10. We have a few things to talk about today, but before I do, let me introduce my co-host. He is still an ordained minister, which is surprising considering the last one.
How long can we bring this joke?
It's not a joke. Aren't you still ordained? Are you still ordained, right?
I am, but we talked about this. It's because there's not really a good mechanism to unordain somebody.
To unordain you. That's fine. I'll take it where I can. I'll take the W where I can get it. So, how you doing, buddy? James Thompson, everybody. Yeah. James Thompson.
I am doing well. I am just living the best life I can.
LIVIN. He's just LIVIN, ladies and gentlemen. So we have a few things that we wanted to talk about. As I adjust your volume.
Make sure people can hear me.
Yeah. For some reason, you sound low. I don't know why.
I don't know.
But now you sound better, I think.
Okay.
The levels are nice. Anyway, so a few things that we need to talk about. First of all, the Family Research Council is now considered a church according to the IRS. So that's the first one. The next thing that we're going to talk about in that same vein, what's the definition of a cult and what's going to be the name of our cult when we start it? And Walgreens and their contraception vague statements. So there's a few things, and then finally we want to wrap it up with Neo-fundamentalism versus the old and busted fundamentalism. Neo meaning new, so the new fundamentals versus the old and busted fundamentals, and the differences and similarities therein. So we're going to talk about all of that because all of the previous topics have to do with the last topic, which is fundamentalism. So welcome to Irreverent 79. Family Research Council. Let's start with this one. Family Research Council. It's what's the deal here? No, hold on a second. Wrong one. The Family Research Council is currently, there it is. Right-wing think tank Family Research Council is now a church in the eyes of the IRS. In the eyes of the IRS, the FRC, a staunch opponent of abortion and LGBTQ rights, joins a growing list of activist groups seeking church status, which allows the organization to shield themselves from financial scrutiny. This is out of ProPublica.org. Now, James, you brought this up, and I've been wanting to take advantage of this law for a while. I'm just pissed that they got to it first.
Yeah, so this is a weird story, but it's not actually all that unusual. The Family Research Council is not the first Christian political action organization.
Sure.
Because I think that's the better way to describe these organizations. They are seeking to influence public policy from their brand of Christianity's perspective.
Yes.
And so they are first and foremost a political action group.
Before they're anything else.
Before anything else. Like when we look at the Family Research Council, the way they describe themselves, they are describing themselves in terms of wanting to change public policy, to influence public policy.
Yeah.
So they are political organizations that are, depending on your perspective, informed by Christian values, distorting Christian values, whatever perspective you may have on these individual organizations. They're political groups.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to square with what the purpose of a church kind of should be.
Yeah,
like the purpose of a church is not to promote a political perspective.
Yeah.
Like that's just not it, that's not in its wheelhouse, especially when we're talking about a Christian church.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we were about Jesus.
Oh, no, that ship sailed a long time ago, bro.
And so I don't see how we can start becoming about political action.
Sure.
To the exclusion of Jesus, which in most of these organizations' cases, while they may be like trying to work out some kind of Christian worldview perspective,
sure.
And I think many of them are trying to do that, they don't have a monopoly on the Christian faith. They don't have a monopoly on the interpretation of Scripture.
Yeah.
And so, like, their public policy conclusions are not infallible. Their public policy conclusions are not inerrant.
But more
their
than
public
that,
policy conclusions are not essentially and necessarily Christian.
Yeah.
They are first and foremost public policy positions that these folks believe are informed by a Christian worldview, and maybe, but aren't necessarily.
Now, do you think that this? Do you believe that this is going to be a new trend?
Well, it apparently already is a trend.
Well, with conservatives, because I know that with the left, it has been. I mean, you had the flying spaghetti monster thing.
No. Focus on the Family.
Focus on the Family
is actually one of the other groups that has sought protection under this IRS designation, and that's really what this is about. This is about protecting the so-called privacy of their donors, basically the secrecy of their donor list.
Yeah.
Because I've worked as a treasurer within a church, within an actual church,
sure,
that I later served as pastor. And as a church, we have a lot of benefits, not just the fact that we don't pay property taxes, that we don't pay all kinds of other taxes as churches, but we also don't have to make certain financial disclosures.
Sure.
Now, the church that I was serving had a annual budget that was smaller than the annual salaries of many of our members.
Oh wow! Okay,
and so what was it? So the budget,
isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
So the budget of this church was minuscule. Well, is it for the number of people it served and for several other characteristics? But again, I think there's lots of reasons for that. But we didn't have to disclose our budget to the IRS. We didn't disclose our donors to the IRS. We didn't have to disclose any information in any formal capacity to the IRS. We had the option to, and we could voluntarily, like,
that's cute,
like get ourselves audited if we wanted to by by outside organizations or whoever. And we did have like insurance companies that wanted details about how we functioned internally, and we would cooperate in those situations. But
nobody's going to really volunteer for no reason.
But there was very little that was asked of us as a church. And now, if these organizations are going to be treated as churches in that respect, they're going to now be exempt from those very same financial disclosures, and so now we have again these potential pools of more political dark money. And I think every reasonable person can agree that our political process is right now ruled more by money,
absolutely,
and how to make more of it,
yep,
than it is anything else, any real genuine concern for normal people.
Do we have I've always had this thing, and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. We talk about it all the time, my friends and I, about starting a cult. Let me ask you this: as somebody who is a religious, a religious professional, I guess you could call it, to an extent, certainly more than me. What is the difference between a cult and a religion?
In a very strict sense, nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Because cult as a pejorative, as a put down, is
very common.
Yes, it's very common, but it's usually weaponized by the most powerful religion in the culture at the time.
Sure.
So what was it? Christians in American culture tend to weaponize this term cult to exclude some folks and include others with these designations.
Mormons are a cult.
Well, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses. There's a whole bunch of these certain branches of Pentecostalism. Have been labeled cults, but then what popularly we think of as cults are these like the Heaven's Gate cult or the Branch Davidians,
the Flavor Aid cults.
The cults that may be Christianity adjacent, but in many cases are just organized around a singular, at least for a time, living leader.
For the time, usually short-lived after they make those claims.
Well, and the thing is like you'll have these cases where it's like the reincarnation of Jesus, or I'm being possessed by an alien, or whatever. Whatever the central myth. We're gonna ride the tail of a comet. Whatever the central myth of that cult is the organizing principle, and as long as that thing is still alive, that person usually is still alive, the cult persists. Otherwise, it kind of falls apart, or in some of the more spectacular cases, they all kill themselves. And those are what we typically think of as cults. But so really,
I just want a cult that smokes weed and hangs out and
you want the Rastafarians, but without any of the religious stuff at all.
And I don't want to be a vegan.
Again, dietary restrictions.
No diet.
You want all the thing, you want to pick and choose from the buffet. I literally
just want to smoke the weed from the Rastas. Haile Selassie, very great. I love reggae music, which is actually a lot of time Rastafarian worship music. But I just want to put together I want to buy a plot of land. I want to buy a plot of land, and I want maybe to have a pilgrimage there for the people to come out there, and then we have a party. We have a party. Basically, I just want a festival that I don't have to pay taxes for.
Well, and again, if
that's literally what I want to do.
If what you're aiming for is tax avoidance,
yes,
being labeled a church is the most comprehensive way to achieve tax avoidance.
All right, so can you be one of our pastors, please? I'm going to put you down as one of our pastors, the Church of Irreverent, and that's just the working name right now. We're not set on it. I was thinking about Zouain's World. That was going to be one. Party time, excellent. And so there's a few names. We're kicking some names around the office.
And I mean, the IRS has their definition of what a church is. Of course, every religious sect, every cult of belief is going to have its own definition of what a church is, or what their concept of a community of faith is.
Yes.
Because that's really what the idea of a church is a local, visible expression.
Do I need a manifesto? Do I have to write a manifesto?
Well, that's the thing. Distinct legal existence. Okay, anybody can do that. Recognized creed and form of worship. Okay.
All right.
So you just need to have some things that you say you believe in, and some things that you do to express those beliefs.
Oh, okay. Easy peasy. I got this.
Definite and distinct ecclesiastical. Okay, so you have to have some kind of church organization that goes beyond the legal organization. So some hierarchy of priests or rabbis.
I already got one right here. We ordained you last week, or last show.
Formal code of doctrine and discipline. So again, this is going back to some of the creedal stuff. How do we express belief in formal ways?
Perfect. All right.
A distinct religious history.
We need to put this together in the base camp too, so that we can make sure we have. I need to put together a cult.
So a distinct religious history. Okay, that's a very subjective definition, but I know that with
I was in my apartment.
I know with relation to Social Security, in order to be exempt from Social Security, your religion has to have existed prior to some arbitrary date. I can't recall what it was.
It has to be before. The religion has to start before some arbitrary date. I can't start one today?
You can't start one today, and be automatically and immediately exempt from all Social Security taxes.
Oh, that's bullshit.
So
that's bullshit. My God.
There's also some, from what I understand, some railroad and firefighter and some other public unions that are also exempted from Social Security because of historic reasons.
Can my pastors be firefighters?
I don't know.
Okay, James.
I'm sure they could be.
We need to figure that out. If the Family Research Council can be a goddamn church, I want to be a goddamn church. Okay? I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, again, as a community of like-minded people, what was it, pursuing whatever
I have a group of people. How big is this group? How big does this group have to be?
I don't know that there is a firm definition on that, but the fewer people it is, the fewer costs you incur, and the easier.
Where two or more gather in His name. I'm just saying. We take that part of the Bible.
That gets distorted in a lot of contexts, not just this one.
Okay, perfect. Then we're par for the course. Where two or more gather in His name. Listen, listen, IRS. I'm a cult now. I am a religion, and I want freedom from your taking my money by force. Until I will throw this olive branch, IRS. I will dissolve my cult. As soon as you take some of that Department of Defense money, put it toward the VA, give some raises to the actual personnel, and take the rest of that money and use it for social services for people here in the U.S. That is how you're going to stop me from creating this cult of like two people. So if you want my money,
maybe just one.
Maybe just shut up, man.
You and some cats.
That's fine by me. Do cats count? Can I put cats down as congregants?
I have no idea.
See, these are the details we need.
These are the details that you need a lawyer for.
Do we need is there a religion lawyer that I need to get? Do I get
I'm sure that John Oliver can refer you to his, because remember he set up his
that's true.
What was it?
He did good.
Lady of the Perpetual something or other.
Lady of the Perpetual
tax exemption or something like that. It was something cheeky.
Yeah, it was friggin' hilarious. Great bit. So yeah, the right wing think tank is now a church. So if that's the case, Irreverent has now become a church. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Church of Irreverent. We even have look at James. James is already in the cathedral already. He's putting his microphone on the communion table.
Right. That's what happened.
That's what's happening. And he's probably drinking whiskey.
Oh, I wish it was whiskey. It's just water.
It's just water. So
actually, I wish it was scotch.
Yeah. Well, it's I hate when people do that shit. Scotch is whiskey.
Yes, it is. But again, when I say whiskey here in the United States, people think, oh, bourbon, oh, rye, something else. No. What was it?
I'm Latin.
Yes,
man.
those are whiskeys.
Yeah,
like those are whiskeys. But what I want is some scotch. And specifically, I want some Isla Scotch, heavy peat. There's lots of smoke.
There's a couple of smoky ass scotches right in there if you want one. But yeah, like I just. I want to start a cult now, man. I want to start a cult, and part of the cult is we have to make something. So, what's the deal with the history?
It just has to be somehow distinct. So I don't know. I don't know.
It started March 20th, 1982.
That's where
when I was born.
I think you'd have to talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
To figure out what in the world.
Oh man, again, I'm gonna call David.
But it may be enough to say that, hey, what was it like? This cult is branching out from this other thing that we now disagree with over this matter.
Evangelical Christianity. Done. Jesus, this is simple.
So again,
I got this.
I'm just trying to read the IRS definition and I
don't buy it.
Yeah, maybe the Family Research Council is a church, but maybe we just shouldn't be defining churches in tax codes.
We should tax them. We should just tax the churches. How about that?
So I think a complete overhaul of our tax system would be more than welcome by me, and if that includes. What was it? Taxing churches in some way, whether directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
Like we already tax the dollars we make multiple times.
Yeah.
Between payroll taxes and then sales taxes.
Yep.
And then the payroll taxes that the employees of the place that we bought the thing get paid. It's like, so yeah, every dollar that passes through our system is subject to an unending, like, seeming endless supply of layers of taxation.
You have to tax
so
the
we
tax.
could simplify some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then maybe the issue of taxing churches would just like handle itself. So maybe we just simplified this god awful tax system that we have.
Yeah,
we'd all be better off, including the churches.
Yeah, this is not where I thought I would be in 2022. I would not think that I would be in a place where we have companies like Walgreens having a lack of context in their policy when it comes to contraceptives. So this is when it comes to dispensing contraceptives, right?
Yeah. So this is a Walgreens policy, and it's not a new policy.
It's not a new policy.
No, it's getting more visibility today
because of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, because like the last time, like I remember this policy being a subject whenever Plan B came popularly onto the market.
Okay.
Because there were pharmacists that didn't want to dispense it, and so Walgreens came up with this policy to deal with that, and then it went dormant for a while. But now we're back to it because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So and again the verbalized threats on contraceptives being made by some politicians.
So this is the claim. This is out of the Associated Press. Walgreens employees can refuse to sell customers contraceptives such as condoms if doing so conflicts with their religious beliefs. I didn't think that we would be here in 2022. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, and this is like some folks are going to connect this to like the anti-gay baker, or flower, or florist and whatnot, and try to connect these back to some of those issues. But this one, I think, really comes down to just kind of like basic commerce, because we're not like these employees are not being asked to use or demonstrate, or do anything with these products other than scan them, place them in a bag. Yep. They don't even have to look at them if they know if they can figure it out, they can just get the stuff from the counter to the bag, collect some money, and then let the customer walk out. In the case of a pharmacist, they're going to have to perhaps count some pills out, but again, like that can be done by someone else in the pharmacy, and then all that has to be done is like you have something that is ready to go in a bag, scan it, put it in a bag, and let it go out the door.
Exactly.
Like, this is very basic commerce stuff. This isn't like nobody's being asked to do anything other than sell a packaged thing that's
legal. You're not selling crack, people.
Legal.
You're not selling
legal
crack.
And lawful and in some cases, in the case of contraceptives, may be medically necessary for reasons that go beyond the moral concerns that some of these folks may have. I know I have three children who have gone through menstruation. And because of the severity that one of them, actually two of them, dealt with it, they were placed on what were hormonal birth controls to regulate their menstrual cycles.
It's infuriating, man.
And so that's that is a medically necessary reason to prescribe these medications. That is not because they're going out and having sex. Like that was not on their radar for most of them. It's still not on their radar. What was it? And so like this is an interruption of basic commerce. Yeah. And like the context that even the AP is trying to bring out here, where Walgreens is saying, oh, well, you're taking this policy out of context. Sure. Okay. What's the context? Well, if an employee doesn't want to sell condoms, contraceptives, or a gallon of milk, like what's the who
they're
gets
vegan, they can't, it's against my religion.
Well, again, who gets to determine the validity of a person's like individually held religious beliefs?
Exactly.
It's like the employer's not in a position to do that. But if an employee just wants to be difficult,
Yeah.
they could make a claim here. And this is the same bullshit line of argumentation
Yeah.
that gets used for transphobic bathroom policies and whatnot.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, this imaginary predator might do something shady.
Yep.
Yes, I'm contriving an example here where an employee may decide, hey, I don't like this customer.
Yep.
I'm going to refuse to sell them this thing they want and claim it's because of my individually held religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Now, the Walgreens policy says that employee has to get another employee who will sell the product to complete the transaction.
But what if they're in the middle of Iowa and there's like, it's just a bunch of...
What if there is no employee on shift at that time willing to sell that product to that customer? Because that's what it comes down to. It's these individuals are saying, I have a problem selling this product to this person.
Yep.
And again, their reasoning is their own, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It straight up doesn't matter because they're not being asked to do anything other than transact commerce.
Yep.
For products that have always been there, and which they knew were present just by the nature of their job. So if they have that strong an objection to the presence of contraceptives in Walgreens, they should go and work for a pharmacy where those products simply aren't carried.
Now,
because that would be more in line with their actual religious beliefs that these things shouldn't be available. So go work somewhere where they're not.
So according to the AP, the AP basically takes a story and gives you what the different claims, the assessment as well as the facts. So the AP's assessment of this is that there's missing context. Walgreens policy is that the employee can decline to complete a customer's transaction if they have a religious or moral objection to the sale, but then they must hand it to a coworker, like you just said, right? I think that it's silly. I mean, I think we're both on the same page here.
Yeah,
it's silly.
Well, and this is where my my libertarianism kind of comes through in a weird way, because I want to respect everybody's individual beliefs and whatnot,
as long as they don't impede
but I also want everybody's individual beliefs to just pass a basic smell test. And in this case, for me, it doesn't. If you have that big of a problem with a product that your employer sells, don't work there. I have left jobs for all kinds of weird ethical issues that I've seen. I have one company in particular that I can think of where they were doing something super shady. I tried to fix it. My superior said, nope, we're going to keep doing this shady stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I'm out.
I'm out of here.
It's it's I tried to correct this, and now I'm gone.
So,
and in situations like this, it's if you have that strong of a moral perspective, if you believe that what your company is doing is unethical, you cannot work there.
You can just leave.
Yes, and again, this is the exact same argument that gets used by folks on other sides. It's well, you could go somewhere else to do this thing, or you can
get out.
If you don't like how we do things here, you can get out. This sort of thing is but you could do the same thing. Go start the Walgreens brand that doesn't sell this useful stuff.
Go start GodTube for Walgreens.
That you don't even know why these people are getting these things. I mean, goodness, I've seen TikToks of people holding condoms out the window to see how big they inflate to be. It's they may not be about to have sex. They may be trying to eat them like a friggin' Tide Pod. Who knows what's going on here? Just sell the product. It's treat it like Pedialyte. Just sell or treat it like the baby formula that you don't have on your shelves.
Or treat it
treat
it like guns.
Treat it like any other product.
Guns. Just
give it to people. You don't know why it's being prescribed. You don't know why it's being purchased. So just sell it.
So let me ask you this.
That is the job in this scenario. And again, this is actually even clearer cut for me than the baker and the florist stuff. Although I think in those cases it's still a matter of simple commerce. It's like, I think the only argument that really exists there is maybe for a wedding photographer. Maybe. But even then, it's like, I've done photography. I've taken pictures of stuff that I don't give two rips about. Yeah. I don't have to be emotionally invested in the thing I'm taking a photo of to take a good photo of it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This all basically connects to the main topic today, which is the neo-fundamentalism versus old and busted fundamentalism. So we have neo-fundamentalism, like neo-Nazi, like neo means new.
Yeah, well, and there's also like a notion of neo-orthodoxy.
Neo-orthodoxy,
like, we're going to expand and like
new orthodoxy. New.
It's a way for us to describe some contemporary movement that is related to some historic movement.
Yeah, maybe starting with neo-Nazi wasn't the best way, but
it connects us, like, because the Nazis that exist, the Nazis that exist today, the neo-Nazis that existed since the 90s, or at least visibly and publicly in my consciousness since the 90s. Yeah. Like, they are not like. They're not German Nazis.
They're not your grandpa's Nazis.
They're not. They are distinct from them in some very important ways.
Chronologically, mainly.
Well, chronologically, but also just like they're not really that well organized compared to the Nazis in Germany. I mean,
that's true. You guys are like weak. You're diet Nazis. Nazis. That's what you are.
And so yeah. I think we have there are reasons to distinguish the new from the old, because sometimes the new is not great. New Coke, not so good. New Pepsi,
yeah. New fundamentalisms,
new fundamentalism, especially
as
it seems to be giving rise to an even more vocal and more visible Christian nationalism. Very not good, not worrisome.
Yeah, did you hear one of the bimbo idiots in Congress, was it Boebert or Marjorie Taylor, the one that looks like Mickey Rourke, Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Okay,
I think one of them too. They
both say stupid stuff a lot.
I know, which is why I can't pin it.
I know Boebert.
Was she the one that was saying that nationalism is a good thing?
Well, I don't know if she said that nationalism was a good thing. I know that
being called a nationalist.
Yeah, and again, there's like nationalism, like as a way of thinking.
Yeah,
it has always existed in some form and whatnot.
Sure.
I think the expression that we're seeing today of like this notion of Christian nationalism, that is like this weird intersection of a kind of fundamentalist Christianity with a hard right political ideology, is historically worrisome, because
you could say that,
because there have been a lot of nationalist movements that have sought to co-opt Christian language, Christian churches.
The Klan,
the actual Nazis did just that. There was the collaborating church in Germany. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was one of the non-collaborators and actually conspired against Hitler, but sought to serve like the faithful, confessing, not Nazi Christians in Germany during World War II. And so the way that nationalistic interests will co-opt whatever the predominant or apparently predominant faith is of a society. I would say, like, when we talk about like things like ISIS, and it's like, yes, they're trying to set up a caliphate. It's like, but they're first and foremost a violent political movement.
A caliphate sounds like a drink.
Well, it's just their idea of an Islamic kingdom.
So a caliphate is a kingdom,
kind of, basically. There's more to it, because there's a union of church and state in the Islamic in the fundamentalist Islamic view. But in this context, like, you have this nationalistic thing that gets wedded to a particular religious ideology too, and then it becomes even more explosively dangerous, because you've now given moral certainty to folks who were like just super patriots. I don't know, like, I don't know how to describe a nationalist in a non-derogatory way, because like historically nationalism doesn't lead to good places. It doesn't lead to places that are healthy for societies.
Yeah, I think that we have a the rise of neo-fundamentalism today. Like, I thought this was gonna die off with most of the boomers, and that like we were gonna have a kind of a break from this craziness.
What we're seeing is a more effective version of the same kind of fundamentalism that existed in the early 20th century. So with
is this the cornflakes to stop people from having sex?
Yeah, that's kind of a branch off from some of that that fundamentalist thought. Like, that was a more peculiar aberration. I don't actually know where he would have been, like, in relation to fundamentalism as a Christian expression.
Okay.
But the ideas of fundamentalism were initially rooted in just five ideas, 5 beliefs: the inspiration and infallibility of Scripture, the virgin birth of Jesus, Christ's atoning death, the bodily resurrection of Jesus, and the historical reality of Jesus' miracles. And at face value, all 5 of those fundamental beliefs seem pretty straightforward, pretty consistently theologically conservative, and not really all that like
out there,
yeah. Even to us today, even as Christianity as a cultural force is way less influential than it was in like the early 20th century.
Yeah,
way less influential. But even these ideas, like, everybody's basically comfortable with, like, that's a reasonable definition of fundamentalism. But fundamentalism as it exists today, and even as it existed then, went well beyond that. And part of the issue, I think, is that the way that we've come to understand this idea of the inspiration and infallibility of Scripture. And I want to say, I believe the Bible is inspired. I believe the Bible is true.
Okay. You don't believe it's infallible?
I am uncomfortable with what other people think that word means. The same reason why I am uncomfortable with the way other believers use the term inerrant.
Okay,
Because those two terms, and again, and I'm saying this as somebody who has gone through seminary, who has been trained in how to think about this stuff. Like, I understand the historical context that those two words arose out of, but there's an expansionist idea that existed in early fundamentalism that didn't really take hold, probably because it wasn't as politically active as today's fundamentalism is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real danger here, is this expansionist idea of, like, the Bible in relation to all of life, and governing all of life, and the wedding to a particular political ideology today.
Yeah.
So, like, basic infallibility, I have absolutely no problem with, because basic infallibility is this idea that the Bible is a complete and trustworthy guide to salvation.
Yep.
That with relation to all matters of faith and practice, the Bible speaks truthfully.
Sure.
And in a trustworthy fashion. That is the fundamental assertion of 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, for me anyway.
And so, like, that basic expression of infallibility, no problem with.
Okay.
The issue that I have is that as I hear most Christians talk about infallibility, what it tends to get extended to is this idea that the Bible is a complete and trustworthy guide to all matters of life and practice.
And you don't believe that's the case?
Not just Christian life and practice, but all life and practice. That it gives us a way to govern, and not just to govern, but to explain every facet of our life. And I think this is expressed in a number of ways that are detrimental. There are some seminaries and some pastors within the Southern Baptist Convention in particular that support exclusively the idea of biblical or nouthetic counseling.
What is
this
that?
idea that therapeutic counseling, the kind of thing that you would get from a psychologist, is best done by somebody who has had biblical training exclusively and conduct themselves not in relation to like actual clinically studied courses of treatment for psychological disturbances.
That's terrifying.
But instead to treat it as a fundamentally spiritual problem. And it is the treating of something like psychological and mental illness, which I have dealt with personally.
Yeah.
Both in my own person, but also within my family.
Yeah.
And to say that that can be dealt with exclusively from the standpoint of basically a specially trained pastor.
Yeah.
Is laughable to me.
Yeah.
Because some of the issues that I had required medical intervention, not just psychological intervention, not just therapeutic intervention from a counseling standpoint, but required medical and medicinal interventions to like calm and manage, not as a permanent solution, but as a way to deal with an emergency that threatened my life, and needed to stabilize that so that the therapeutic processes, the psychological therapy could then work.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like there need to be the same reason why we take someone to the ER when they break a bone and it's sticking out at the side of their leg. Like there is an emergent situation that has to be dealt with.
But you also have people that truly believe that someone that needs a blood transfusion doesn't get it. That's
and again that
Jehovah's, I think, believe that.
I'm not sure. I know who you're referencing, but I don't know which denomination it is, so I'm not going to call that one.
Yeah,
but yes, there are.
I'll say it. I don't care. No, I'm just
there are some denominations that restrict, as a matter of their beliefs, certain medical procedures.
Yeah.
And so that's a thing that has to be wrestled with as a matter of belief, especially as it may impact public health concerns.
For sure.
And I think that's something that we saw with like the COVID pandemic.
Yep.
It's like and the way that our nation responded to COVID compared to the way that it responded to, I don't know, polio or the Spanish flu or like any other like emergent pandemic like public health crisis. Like there was much more of a general attitude of cooperation and wanting to do something for everyone, not just for ourselves individually, that seemed to pervade society at those times that seemed to not be so prevalent in our response to COVID. And I want to be clear, churches in particular suspended worship in response to the Spanish influenza when that happened in the early 20th century. Now, after those quarantine periods started to get really, really long for them, several months, churches did start to push back and try to assert themselves in terms of returning to worship because of how long the quarantines had gone on.
Sure.
But we had that pushback in the COVID crisis from day one.
Yeah, and that's because it became a political thing,
right?
From day one.
And that's the thing. It's like we no longer, as a society, seem to think all that much about anyone other than ourselves, and I think that cuts in every possible direction. Yeah. We have become a thoroughly selfish society, and unfortunately, we've given up any thought to how our actions and our pursuits may negatively impact others.
And it's primarily been spearheaded by the evangelical right, and that's what. And the other thing is, when you talk about this becoming political, again goes back to Roe. All of I would say 75% of our woes when it comes to religion were birthed out of Roe, because
they were birthed out of the political union that came after Roe.
Yes.
So there was a political union between Catholics and Protestants. They were able to stop fighting over the piddly stuff that they had in the early 20th century. What was it when like the Protestants in America hated Catholics? Yeah. And eventually they formed a political alliance. Following Roe that then gave birth to. What was it? Jerry Falwell, and what was it? It was at least influential in some ways in the conservative resurgence within the Southern Baptist Convention. And has kind of continued to carry forward But yeah, in our modern context.
But that's the thing. We had a hijack of faith, a hijack of religion, and that's what birthed all of this. And it's infuriating that I thought that, you know, after the mid 2000s that maybe it was going to go away, but I guess it's just because my own enlightenment, I was projecting that on the rest of the people that are my age. And I mean, I think that, like, you, for example, you've kind of in some ways, I think, deconstructed at least the part of the faith that you and I grew up. A lot of
for me, I'm trying to give up what I perceive as cultural Christianity.
Yeah.
And I think the political trappings of modern evangelicalism is part of that cultural Christianity.
See, I consider myself culturally Christian, but not in that way. Like,
well, I think, or what we would define as, again, this kind of quote unquote Christian culture or Christian subculture.
Got it. Okay.
That I think exists in American Christianity.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And so basically trying to deconstruct, like, because I thought that stuff, at least when I went through seminary, was preferring contemporary worship music to hymns, and was something like, and was like the
so bad,
the kind of the charismatic influences that
the amount of money people made from that cheese ball shit.
Yeah, well, again, and I thought, and when I went into seminary, I thought that was the cultural Christianity, was this, what was it, this bending of church worship styles towards so-called worldly styles.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is no, the cultural facet of what American Christianity, especially conservative American Christianity, is extends into a lot more areas.
Sure.
And a lot of those extensions are at this point political, and so that's why I kind of push away from some of those things.
Sure.
Also because I think that the Bible's answer to how should we think about things in a political sphere is way more complicated than anybody really thinks it is.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Look, this entire political Christian religious culture is a net negative for us, and I hope that someday we can get out of it. And more importantly, if that doesn't happen, I just want to get my cult started. You want to do this next month?
Yeah, let's do it again.
Did you want to close out with anything else?
I do have just a thought on this, because I want to be clear. Like, I believe the Bible's infallible, but I think this expansive notion of infallibility tends to lead to a kind of conflict-oriented Christianity. And we see that expressed in, like, the intelligent design and creation science debates that came up, and all kinds of, like, again, this Christian nationalism, I think, comes back to this idea that somehow the Bible was intended, and I don't think the Bible ever says this itself. The Bible was meant to inform, like 2 Timothy says, like how we live as believers.
Believers.
It is meant to help us understand the world around us, but it is not meant to help us rule the world around us.
Yeah.
That is something that only God can do.
I was with you. I was not with you when you started this statement. I'm with you now. The infallibility thing, you lost me. But after that, I'm with you. All right. Let's do this again next month, all right?
All right.
Cool. Thanks, bro. My name is DJ Zouain. You can find me all over the socials at DJ ZOUAIN. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, all the other T's. And you can find me on Saturdays at West End Trading Company. You can find all of the programs that we do here on theend.fm or on your favorite podcast platform. And aside from that, thanks for hanging out, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.